Hello and welcome to your daily roundup of all election-related news. Verdict 2014. I'm Ishan Russell and here are the headlines we're tracking right now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi campaigns in Jharkhand ahead of the second phase of polls, terms the election as critical to Jharkhand's future. Congress President Sonia Gandhi also hits the campaign trail in Jharkhand, accuses the BJP of depriving the tribals of the state. And a repoll has been ordered in 3 booths in Jharkhand after voting was cancelled in the first phase. Repolling to take place along with the second phase of voting. All right, first, the big story from Jharkhand. As the state readies to go to the polls in the second phase on Tuesday, there's a rush of political bigwigs hitting the campaign trail there. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Jamshedpur and Ranchi today to woo voters, calling once again for an end to dynastic rule. Modi termed this assembly election as critical for the state's future.
ये चुनाव महत्वपूर्ण है। इस महत्वपूर्ण चुनाव को हमने समझना चाहिए और मैं ये बात खास तौर के आज जमशेदपुर और रांची के लोगों को बताना चाहता हूं।
The Prime Minister's poll pitch in Jamshedpur, the first of 2 rallies he addressed in Jharkhand on Saturday on the penultimate day of campaigning for the second phase. Referring to 14 years since Jharkhand was formed, Modi likened the state to a teenager, saying the next 5 years would be critical to deciding the longer-term progress of the state into adulthood and realizing its potential.
बाल्टी में छेद हो और कितना ही पानी नलके में से आता हो, बाल्टी कभी भरेगी क्या? भरेगी क्या? अगर सरकार में ही छेद होगा और दिल्ली से रुपया आएंगे तो काम आएंगे क्या? चले जाएंगे? हमने जो कोयले की नीति बनाई है, उसके कारण अब चोर लुटेरों के उसमें जगह नहीं है। ये लूटने वालों ने बहुत लूट लिया, अब कोयला लूटने नहीं दिया जाएगा।
As at Jamshedpur, later in state capital Ranchi, Modi once again stepped up the offensive against dynasty and family politics, stressing they have been the bane of Jharkhand and the entire nation.
पूर्ण बहुमत वाली भाजपा की सरकार बना के दे दीजिए, मैं आपको आपके सपनों का झारखंड बना के दे दूंगा भाई। अब ये परिवारवाद, ये वंशवाद, इससे देश तंग आ चुका है।
13 districts of Jharkhand, including Jamshedpur and Ranchi, go to polls in the second phase on the 2nd of December. Sunday is the last date for campaigning for this phase.
मजबूत सरकार है।
Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
इसका कारण झारखंड ने जो मुझे समर्थन किया, उसके कारण दिल्ली में मजबूत सरकार बन पाई।
And Congress President Sonia Gandhi was also in Jharkhand today. She addressed a rally in Patamda in East Singhbhum district alongside that adjoins Jamshedpur. That also goes to the polls in the second phase on the 2nd of December. Sonia slammed the BJP for what she termed misuse of power and promises unkept.
In the thick of Jharkhand's tribal belt, the Congress president chose to highlight what she calls anti-people and anti-tribal policies of the BJP government in New Delhi to reach out to the voters in Jharkhand. In East Singhbhum's Patamda constituency in Jharkhand, Sonia had lashed out at the BJP with allegations of protecting interests of big business houses at the cost of the poor man.
आदिवासियों की संरक्षक है। जिन राज्यों में भाजपा सरकारें हैं, जिसमें गुजरात भी है, वहां पूंजीपतियों को फायदा पहुंचाने के लिए उन्हें अपनी जमीनों से उजाकर खुले आसमान में जीने के लिए मजबूर किया है।
Sonia said labour reforms being brought in by the BJP in the name of strengthening the country's economy are anti-people.
कांग्रेस पार्टी संगठित और असंगठित क्षेत्र के कामगारों के लिए हमेशा संघर्ष करती रही है। के शोषण की छूट देना चाहती है।
East Singhbum, that falls in Kolhan, is a high tribal density region. Congress President Rahul Gandhi had campaigned in the area on Friday. It's among 13 districts of the state going to polls in the second phase on the 2nd of December. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And hectic campaigning is on in Jammu and Kashmir as well, where incumbent Chief Minister Omar Abdullah and PDP patron Mufti Mohammad Saeed campaigned across the valley today. Addressing a rally in Anantnag, that's a stronghold for Mufti, Omar chose to target the opposition party in his speech. He accused the PDP of ignoring the task of rehabilitation and reconstruction of the state after the tragic floods over there for petty electoral gains. In Kulgam, though, Mufti Saeed accused the ruling party of resorting to political opportunism to stay in power. Saeed also criticized the Prime Minister for accusing PDP of corruption when Mufti Mohammad Saeed was the Chief Minister of the state.
सैलाब के दौरान ये कहीं नजर नहीं आए। आज इन्होंने ये इलेक्शन आप लोगों पे ठोसा है। उन हालात में जबकि हम आप तक रिलीफ पहुंचाना चाहते थे, हम आपके घर तक राहत का सामान पहुंचाना चाहते थे, हम आपके घर तक मुफ्त राशन पहुंचाना चाहते थे।
आज तकलीफ जंग है, आज वो पता नहीं क्यों कहते और बिफोर प्लस वो ऐसा नहीं होने देंगे।
And yet to fully recover from the recent tragic floods over there, people in Jammu and Kashmir are electing a new government with the hope of rehabilitation and reconstruction on priority. All key political parties waited till the first phase to be over to come out with their manifestos that outline their vision for the state in the next 5 years. Here's a comparison of what they're promising Jammu and Kashmir in the coming days.
Dead by the hundreds, lakhs left homeless, and assets worth crores washed away. The nightmare of the devastating floods 3 months back continues to haunt people in the valley. Amid all this, the political parties are battling out to win the next term to rule the state. After waiting till as long as the first phase of polls, they all came out with their promises and agendas for the people of the state. After facing severe criticism over its handling of the flood crisis, ruling National Conference spoke highly of the government's efforts in rescue and relief operations. Most of the parties promised to put relief and rehabilitation work as one of their priorities. Development, jobs and education are some of the other common issues that found places in these manifestos. But when it comes to controversial issues like Article 370, the divide is clear. While BJP decided to keep Article 370 out of its vision document, other regional parties were seen backing it in their manifestos. Both National Conference and PDP promised to support Article 370 to the hilt. The two parties asserted that the controversial article affects everything from politics to economy. For them, the article is the special status or guarantee of self-rule in the state. The controversial article has been one of the key issues that have dominated campaigning in the valley so far, and it is likely to continue in the coming days. What remains to be seen is whether aggressive political stands on the issue will polarize votes in the valley. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the Election Commission has ordered repolling at 2 booths in Jharkhand's Chhatarpur constituency and 1 booth in Garhwa seat. Voting in these booths was cancelled during the first phase of elections due to some incidents. The repolling will take place on the 2nd of December when the state will go for the second phase of polls. 20 out of the total 81 constituencies will be voting on Tuesday. All right, now there can be a few bigger threats to a population than a perpetual fire raging just meters deep beneath the surface across the town. This, though, is the case in Dhanbad district's Jharkhand. Governments and promises have come and gone, but little has changed here. Life over here is, in fact, about living under a permanent cloud of danger.
Every once in a while, once a week or so, the blaze that rages just below the surface flares up, raising havoc, often disaster and death. And that's besides the perpetual effects on air, water and land. Smoke from these fires contains poisonous gases such as oxides and dioxides of carbon, nitrogen and sulfur. Particulate matter causes several lung and skin diseases. The people of Jharkhand, down several generations now, have learned to live with it. Successive governments have promised steps to douse the flames and make the surroundings more livable. Some people have even been relocated, but the state of things leaves a lot to be desired.
50 साल की गैस जो निकल रहा है यहाँ पे, हम लोग गर्मी में इतना तप रहे हैं मगर ये बीसीएल को ध्यान नहीं है और बीसीएल ये चाहते हैं कि यहाँ से जितना जल्दी हो सके हम लोग यहाँ से चले जाएं और ऐसा जगह दे रहे हैं जहाँ पर जानवर रहना पसंद नहीं करेंगे।
अब वही आग है, कब का हो जाएगा, सब अंदर चले जाएंगे, का होगा, खतरा की जगह है, कोई जगह बढ़िया देख के मतलब हम लोग का वहाँ अपना घर दिया जाए कि हम लोग बाल सुख शांति से रहें।
Close to 1.5 lakh people are still to be moved out. Bharat Coking Coal Limited, BCCL, has even set up a township for the displaced people in neighbouring Belgaria town. But officials say the evacuation process is slow and full of hold-ups.
Definitely BCCL को खराब लगता है और खराब लगेगा और BCCL इस प्रकार की घटना ना घटे इसकी पहल करने के लिए हर एक को पास अपील करता है, चाहे वो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट हो, चाहे वो वहाँ का मजदूर हो, चाहे वहाँ का रहने वाला हो।
It's not as if the administration hasn't had time to shift the people. Jharkhand's coal mine fires have been raging since the 1920s. There are about 20 fire spots covering an area of about 17 square kilometers. Jharkhand coal field in Dhanbad stretches from west to east in the shape of a sickle. Experts say modern techniques can now be adopted to put out the inferno.
झरिया फायर के ऊपर देखिए CMRI की तरफ से भी विस्तृत अध्ययन हुआ है और इसके लिए एक रिपोर्ट भी बहुत पहले बन चुकी है। स्थिति तो भयावह है लेकिन इस पर कंट्रोल पाया जा सकता है। तमाम सारे डिफेंसिव मेजर्स हैं जिन मेजर्स को लेकर के झरिया फायर पर कंट्रोल पाया जा सकता है।
Political response to this perpetual threat decides which party the people of the region vote for. Promises abound ahead of every election and they fade into virtually no action after votes are cast. The sitting MLA in Jharkhand is from Bihar. The constituency goes to polls in the third phase on the 14th of December. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, that's it in Verdict 2014. But, of course, we'll be back every day with all the latest election-related news in Verdict. Thanks so much for watching.